ease the movement of goods consigned to South Sudan, the Kenya government has responded to the request of South Sudan to set aside 10 acres of land at the inland container depot in Naivasha Industrial Park for use as a dry port by the government of South Sudan.
And in this connection, South Sudan has registered once again its profound gratitude to the government and people of Kenya for the sustained support.
All right, welcome back to Daybreak, and that's the voice of the two presidents of Kenya and South Sudan. And of course, we hear the president of Kenya, Uhuru Kenyatta, agreeing to a request by the South Sudanese government to have a dry port. 10 acres of land have been offered in Naivasha for South Sudan to construct that dry port. I don't know where to begin. Maybe because you referred to it, let me begin from this side. Okay. What is Kenya doing? Is it about regional positioning, or is it about auctioning the country like some feel?
No, I think if we got an explanation, because I'm assuming economists in the National Treasury and in the government, the economic advisors of the president have worked this through. So, and in fact, that is where the communication the presidency could be more effective. So they say, when we allocate the 10 acres to Sudan, so much will go through it, and so much employment will be generated. Offshoot businesses, so many offshoot businesses are projected, so much revenue is projected. This will, you know, there has to be, you know, precision maths that come out of it. And that is what I was looking for, that message. Because then the message is not complete when you just say allocating 10 acres. You should say how that will help Kenya. If there's a lot of good that will come out of it, it's okay, because other countries have done that. I mean, if you look at Singapore, its biggest business, it's its port. Yeah, they really don't, the country is very small, they hardly produce anything, but they've leveraged on the port business as their biggest business in the region. So we'd like to see those answers. And I think probably you should be asking on the show, one of the other shows on here, to have the government economists to come and explain the projections.
Speaking of which, these deals, should they be made public?
Yes. I think, and if they're not made public, then it only sounds like you're giving Kenya, parts of Kenya away. Because we just hear you're giving. The last time you gave to Uganda, now you're giving to Sudan. So we need to know the why, you know? What is in it for Kenya, like Honorable Gladys is saying? What is in it for us? But to tell us, to stand there and just tell us, you're giving 10 acres to Sudan, the other day you gave, I don't know what, to Uganda. The common man who make up more than 80% of this country's population needs to know why. You know, what is in it for us? And you also need to tell us that the reasons why you choose to give this to Sudan is because no Kenyan can actually do what Sudan is going to do.
Is it
and
fair?
I think that is wrong.
Is it fair? Because we never hear what Kenya has gotten.
Yes, you don't hear the other side of the story. What does Kenya get in return? And when you give that 10 acres to Sudan to help us with the economic zone or the dry port, whatever, is it that other Kenyans, or there are no Kenyans who can actually do the same? You know, so I think Kenyans are crying for opportunities to develop its country and to develop themselves, but those opportunities are also being taken away from them and given to other countries. So we just need to know what is the magic in Sudan and Uganda handling the dry port that other Kenyans might not be able to do. Or what is the profit or the benefit that Kenyans stand to get by Sudan and Uganda getting the opportunity to
as you respond, I want you to put this together, that there is the standard gauge railway that is supposed to move from Mombasa all the way to the border with Uganda. And there are challenges with the financing the line from Naivasha to Kisumu. But recently we've seen the president trying to ensure that the neighboring countries are on board. Would this help to ensure that the SGR is complete? Because we are told that they will be having their imports coming through there at the ICD in
If it is,
Naivasha.
that's what we need to know.
Yes, and actually that's where, as Rosa and I have clearly said, we need to know the benefit for Kenya. And actually, Parliament plays an oversight role. And so it's actually the backstops with Parliament now to summon, I think the Committee of Trade and Transport and Infrastructure should actually summon the relevant institutions and ask them those questions. Can you give us an explanation that we, as representatives of the people of Kenya, to be able to explain to them what benefit we have. So people are able to say, ask, could Kenya not have done this? Number two, what does Kenya stand to gain when we allocate them, and I guess the allocation is a lease of 10 acres. And you have, if it far outweighs, if the benefit to Kenya far outweighs the leasing of 10 acres, then that will be okay. But you've got to know, and that's why I think the communication here has failed. Yeah, but I'm hoping that the committee in Parliament, the relevant committees in Parliament, would summon the relevant institutions to explain.
Honorable Rosa, is President Uhuru Kenyatta's administration desperate to get SGR completely done with? We're seeing, like you said, in March, Uganda already got another piece of land in Naivasha. Now we're seeing Africa's youngest nation receiving 10 acres of land, all because of SGR. Are we that desperate?
I don't think it's desperate, and I don't think it's desperation, but they just lack in giving information, sharing information. Information is power. And I'm sure that they're doing it for a reason. But let us know that reason. This country does not belong to him alone. This country belongs to Kenyans. Okay? So he might be the one leading and probably is doing it for the right reasons. But let the other owners of this country know.
So why are the details of these deals, be it with Sudan, Uganda, China, not public information? Why?
Or better still, how should it work? Should Parliament knows before the government engages other states, or it should be as a way of information after a deal has been struck?
I think usually Parliament would know during the budget making process or when the reports are tabled to the relevant committee by the various institutions. But remember, each ministry comes before a parliamentary committee and presents their budget and projects for that year and requests for them to be funded. So at that time you would know about it. But sometimes if the details are not very available and you don't know about it, it's still okay. And that is why Parliament has this power to summon those institutions to explain. And when they do summon
they're explaining after the deal.
What can you do? If you are dissatisfied with that kind of arrangement, what can you do at that point?
No, I think Kenyans are still entitled to know. But I also believe that if we get to know and it is known that there is a problem with it or it's questionable, you can still mitigate it. You could, you know.
And what do you mean by what can Kenyans do? If we don't like it, there are lots of things we can do as Kenyans.
But when it's already
I'm asking as Parliament, already there's a deal.
Remember, Parliament is just not Parliament. Parliament comes with a whole lot of Kenyans behind them.
Right.
Yes.
But when the deal is done and signed, pen to paper?
Are there deals that have never been rescinded in this life? There are deals that cannot be rescinded. So if a deal is not good and Parliament thinks that deal is not good, with the support of the people they represent, there's a whole lot of...
Give me two that Parliament has forced recession.
What did you say?
Give me two deals that have been rescinded by Parliament.
Because it didn't favor Kenyans.
Kenya Airways. Yeah, Kenya Airways. I think when the Trade Committee called on the issue of Kenya Airways, and Kenya Airways, I think they were going to sell it out, and I think eventually that was stopped. So yes, Kenya, but many times Parliament has been able to deal with situations.
Is it also fair enough to say that we are supporting South Sudan economically, but we are also not voicing as Kenya, as one of the strongest economies in East Africa and Africa when it comes to matters peace?
Yeah, remember, okay, we're not saying, I'm not discounting that this may not be a good deal. It could be a good deal.
Right.
I just need to have the details to it. Because remember, Kenya is in a strategic position. They can leverage on the fact that they have many landlocked countries around it and be able to actually become a hub. Like I said, countries like Singapore, their biggest economy is built from the port. So Kenya can do that. And that's why it is important that the communication is effective, because then we can understand the logic. And it also allows... when Parliament interrogates, it also allows the ministry to go and reconsider some of the issues. Look at the housing regulations, the housing levy that was imposed. That was approved by Parliament, but because of the issues that were raised by Kenyans, eventually they adjusted the scheme according to the needs of Kenyans. And Kenyans did raise it in the press. But so also, yes, sometimes they've listened. But
also remember that on top of Kenya's agenda cannot be to help South Sudan. That cannot be.
I don't think they help.
I mean,
but regional positioning.
Yes, so what I'm saying is, you can only do that if you also stand to benefit, or if it's not going to harm your citizens in any way. Harm them in terms of even strangling the opportunities, okay? So I don't think
So we can leverage economic opportunities to call for peace, for example, in South Sudan, which at the end of the day will not only benefit South Sudan as a nation, but even Kenyans who work and do business.
Let me say this. Do you know you can only be peaceful when you're economically empowered and you're sorted out? But if you're not economically empowered and you're crying out for jobs and you're crying out for basics like food and healthcare, there will be no peace, because you will stand up and say there will be no peace. So why the hell would we try to create peace in Sudan, strangle our people with the little opportunities that they can get, and then say we are okay because South Sudan is peaceful? We'd be creating war in our country to help South Sudan. So I think what the government needs to do, and remember, we are not saying that the move is wrong. We're just saying that Kenyans lack information. We need to know why. What is the benefit to Kenya? And that should be the first and foremost thing that the president and the government must always be thinking about, the benefit for Kenya, before you try to be giving peace to Sudan and giving peace to whatever. What does Kenya stand to gain out of it? Whether economically or in terms of...
All right, Rose. Access to information is a constitutional right, but clearly you can see that there are challenges with accessing information on those deals. And I want us now, because you said that our business cannot be to focus on the peace of neighbors, we want to focus on the political peace within the country. We have Raila Odinga and the Deputy President William Ruto. They are having quite a contestation. Let's just listen to what they have been saying about each other.
Napinga kwa sababu hawataki maendeleo pande yetu. Hapana. Kama serikali ilikuwa haitaki maendeleo, haingeweka hiyo madams ya Kimarere na Aror ndani ya mpango. Kimarere na Aror ilipangwa tukiwa serikali, mimi na Kibaki. Tuliweka kampuni ya Iran ambayo ilichora hiyo, na wakasema wakafanya estimate kwamba ingegharimu shilingi bilioni 5. Sasa imetoka 5 ikafika 63.
You are against the Eurobond because you said it's corrupt. You are against Northern Collector Tunnel because you said it is corrupt. You are against us building the railway. You told us it is corrupt. You are against raising money in churches because you say it's corrupt. You are against any Arambe even for women because you say it is corrupt. But it is because you are the Lord of poverty and you want poverty in our country. You are opposed to any development in our nation because you believe this country should be poor so that people can continue to support you. And I am telling you, we will work night and day to eliminate poverty in this nation so that your kingdom of poverty has no place in Kenya and the Lord of poverty will have no space in our nation.
Rosa, I want to begin with you. What do you make of all that?
Why do you want to begin with me?
Because the other time I started with that.
Okay. Let me say this. There are two types of politicians in this country. Okay? There are those politicians who want to create opportunities or who want to create development so that they can elevate poverty amongst the people. That's one set of politicians. There's another set of politicians who want to give handouts everywhere they go. They want to give handouts in terms of money so that you are kept happy, but as you go back home, your status remains the same. You still have no water, you still have no health care, you still have no schools, but the 100 shillings you are given in your pocket is also finished, so you are back to square one. So who is the Lord of poverty between those two politicians? To me, the Lord of poverty cannot be the like of Raila Amolo Odinga, who want to make sure that the dams are built, who want to make sure that the money or resources in the country are well utilized and not put in people's pockets, but are utilized in such a way that they create opportunities for the people. That cannot be the Lord of poverty. Instead, I think the Lord of poverty is our deputy president. Why? Because to him, he prefers to be dishing out that money without looking at the real essence of life, the healthcare, the water. And why am I saying this? When Raila talked about corruption in Eurobond, was there corruption or there wasn't? When he talked about NYS, was there corruption or there wasn't?
But Eurobond, there is no confirmation. Just hold it. The Director General didn't find anything after all his tours.
No. Just hold on. When he talked about NYS, Was there corruption or there wasn't? When he talked about the dams, was there corruption or there wasn't? So it looks like...
You cannot confirm that because the case is not yet in court.
The case is not in court,
yes.
But we know that... No, just going by what the two leaders said. One said there was 21 billion that was missing, but the deputy president said there was 7 billion that was missing. So between the things they were saying, we know that there was some corrupt deal. Though the case is still going on. But the two did not have a problem with whether there was corruption or not. It was just in the amounts, okay? So when Raila gets up to speak about corruption, indeed, each of the times that he's spoken, it has been proven that indeed there was corruption. Probably, maybe not to the magnitude that he might have said, but indeed there was corruption. So I think between the two, the lord of poverty here is the deputy president.
So at the end of the day, the underlying issue here, Honorable Gladys, is this dependency syndrome that our politicians seem to always have. They always seem to never bring lasting solutions in terms of projects, but as you've said, they'll give you 100 bob here and there. How do we kill that?
I rarely disagree with Rosa, but on this one, I think what the deputy president has said is factual. It is true that Raila opposed Eurobond.
SGR.
He opposed SGR, which he is now happy that it's coming to Kisumu.
How could you have opposed SGR, and SGR was a brainchild of Honorable Raila and Mwai Kibaki? What Raila opposed was SGR was costing this amount. How then has it climbed to cost this amount? I think that was the issue there. Otherwise, it was their brainchild. They couldn't have opposed it.
Allow her to finish.
And I'm sorry that I interjected.
No, that's okay. I think if you... And that's what we are saying is that I think what the deputy president is putting here is that... I mean, that the contradictions by the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, that he has contradicted himself several times. Right now, he has no problem with SGR, including the cost.
So what has changed?
He complained about... So he's been a vexatious objector of any development program, saying that there is corruption in it throughout, and that is fact. It is not me passing judgment, it is a fact.
But sometimes
so actually what the deputy president was saying are facts, things that have actually happened and have been shown in the newsrooms. It is not a story. I think when we talk about Kibra, where he was MP for how many years? Almost 30 years. It's the poorest place in this country. I have done a lot of work in Kibra. I've seen the work that Shofco has done through Kennedy Odede. It's more than Raila would ever have done. And this is a young boy who was a street child, who has built a hospital there, he's built a school, he's taken many children out of Kibra overseas for education. He's educating young girls for free at a 5-star education right there in Kibra. He's offering free lunch, he's offering free water. So if you want to see what it is to do development in Kibra, please go and visit Shining Hope for Communities, which is run by Kennedy Odede and his wife Jessica Odede. That is the kind of work I would have. In fact, I looked at it and I said, he has managed to do this in Kibra, something that Raila was not able to do. So actually, if Raila wants to say that he has alleviated poverty, he should have done it.
But Honorable Shale,
you know, I'm looking at you
just a moment, Rosa. Yeah. Honorable Shale, even as you say, as you try to rate his performance well an MP, there are questions that he has raised about certain projects that have eventually turned out to be truly corrupt. So
yes.
Isn't he justified to make a voice just because of his history with Kibra?
No, but I also believe...
And remember...
No, that's what I'm saying. When we talk about poverty and him doing nothing to change poverty, it is fact. By just using Kibra as an example, period. Number two, if we look at the issues where he has raised, yes, he has raised on the Eurobond, but I would have expected him not to raise it once and keep quiet when there's been the handshake. I don't expect him to raise about the SGR and suddenly keep quiet. I still expect him, even though embracing the SGR to come into Kisumu and be able to have it, because I know it will change the lives of people in Kisumu, I still expect him to continue asking questions, because he's still the leader of opposition. We expect him to still do his job as leader of opposition. So yes, I welcome the fact that he criticizes it, but don't criticize it once and stop. You've got to follow it through if you have to bring real change or make an impact in the issues that you have
Raila should not...
And I'm not saying this because I take sides or that...
No, you don't have...
Don't
be apologetic. Why are you apologetic to your conviction?
This is a fact.
Okay,
this is a fact. These are facts that you can confirm.
Don't be apologetic.
I want him to continue questioning SGR now. And I want him to continue questioning NYS. When NYS was being opened the other day, I expect him to still be questioning the money being put in NYS. I still expect him to be questioning the IFMI system. I expect him to still be questioning the cost that we are spending on our roads, because he has always done that. You can't stop now. My challenge is, why has he stopped now when he's still in the opposition?
He's the
no. Listen, you know what? Let's just get this right. So you expect Raila to be questioning through... Just look at where your focus is. You expect Raila to be questioning throughout. That is our focus.
That is what the opposition should be doing.
Just listen. While the looters keep on looting, it is okay for them to loot. Raila just keep on questioning. Looters just keep on looting. Where does that take the country? Where is the problem here? Raila asking the questions or the looters continue to loot?
DP Ruto says that this is just Raila Odinga looking for relevance, to remain relevant.
By questioning. You know, I think, let's be honest here. The country needs us to be honest with ourselves, okay? It doesn't matter if Raila is looking for relevance. It doesn't matter if he continues to question. The real gist of the problems in our country is corruption, okay? So whatever the deputy president is saying Raila is enjoying doing, let him, as the deputy president, focus with the president on dealing with corruption. So what then, as the deputy president, is he doing to stop corruption? At least you'll say, Raila's contribution in fighting corruption is questioning. What is the deputy president's contribution in fighting corruption? That's what I need to see.
In the end, as we close on this discussion, you cannot ignore the fact that these two gentlemen are politicians. They might be presumed to be playing politics, of course, because of what has been happening in the country. But usually the casualty here is the truth. So how do we survive? Let me give you an example of what I mean. Political hate between the two leaders.
Let me give you one example that I believe leaders should do. It's not enough to question. You must question and follow through. So, for example, Raila has enough members of parliament within parliament to be able to lobby them, to be able to use their committees, to be able to follow through on the questioning, preparing reports, and even implementing those reports. Because remember, they can say...
Why can't members of parliament do that on their own as
and no, but I'm saying,
part of the oversight
if I wanted
Raila is not...
Hold on, let me just explain this. I will give you an example. My committee received a complaint about VAT returns, refunds, and the manufacturing industry said we are suffering because the government keeps their money for too long. Our committee was able to recall those VAT regulations, have people appear before us, including KRA and the National Treasury. We nullified the regulations, and it's only after we nullified the regulations that the other day the National Treasury has put 15 billion to refund industry their VAT that was being held by government. And the minister has now set up a committee to be able to process the VAT refunds much faster. What does that mean? We made a real impact on so it is not enough to complain about something. You must attempt to use any method or any system within parliament to be able to make those changes. And yes, you may not be in parliament, but believe me, I have lobbied parliament even before I joined parliament for certain positions to be taken, for certain laws to be passed, for certain decisions to be made by a committee. It is possible. So I'm happy, and that's why we have an opposition. The opposition is supposed to keep the government in check. Remember that the Parliamentary Accounts Committee and the Parliamentary Investment Committee, the majority of the members are from the opposition by requirement of law.
Can I just ask a question?
Go ahead.
So yes, Raila does control the Public Accounts Committee and the Public Investment Committee. So if he thinks a certain investment is bad, they can take a position as a party.
All right, Honorable.
And they can actually influence it.
She has a question. I don't know for who. Just go ahead and ask it.
Who has the responsibility to run this country? Is it Raila or the government?
What do you think? Check. Raila has the responsibility through the opposition.
Excuse me, could I just have my time? Is it Raila or is it the government? And if it's the government, who heads that government? His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta, assisted by William Ruto. So when you tell me that, I expect you to question and go further. So then what is the role of government in this case?
After the handshake, it seems that also Raila is part of that government.
Officially? You tell me. Is he part of the government? Raila has taken an oath and said he's going to do what. He was there taking that oath, swearing to protect, to do what? He did that?
We've seen numerous times Raila Odinga saying that he will continue to work with President Uhuru Kenyatta.
Does that make him part of, does that officially make him part of that government? Don't cheat yourself. The government is made up of headed by President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy. And if anything is going wrong, they take responsibility for it. You cannot tell me that Raila can question and go and do something else further than just questioning. What else do you expect him to do? What else do you expect him to do?
Yeah, just I think the last one on that.
The machinery and everything lies with the people who are running this government.
We need to close with this because it appears it's quite a divisive topic. But how do we get rid of all the noise
How do you do what?
How do we get rid of the noise, the political noise that we see the two leaders engaging in?
The system works like this and democracies work like this. Yes, the people who are heading the government is the presidency, which is His Excellency the President Uhuru Kenyatta and the Deputy President William Ruto.
Right.
But the reason why an opposition is so important in a country is that it keeps the government in check. Because a government without an opposition, it's very dangerous because the government can go rogue. So
though someone might argue that that is the role of Parliament as the oversight body.
Yes, but usually what makes it in Parliament, because usually you find that the reason why you have an opposition is that if the government takes a certain position, the opposition is able to question government.
So why is the Deputy President getting angry when Raila, the opposition leader, is keeping government in check?
No, I think
why is he getting angry?
Yeah. If you let me finish, Rosa.
No, let's finish. And I want you to clarify on this, Honorable Shelley.
The important position of opposition is to keep government in check. Why is it that even though Jubilee has the majority, it is by design that certain key committees must be headed by someone from the opposition? The Public Accounts Committee and the Public Investments Committee. And then the majority members are from the opposition. Why? To keep the government in check. And that is their role. And if you look at the progress that Kenya has made over the years, actually it's been the opposition. Because of the opposition, they've been able to check government and make changes.
As we close on this, Honorable Shelley, we do not have an opposition and a government party within Parliament as currently constituted. We have majority and the minority, and Parliament is the oversight against the government because it's a pure presidential system.
Yes.
So how do you distance yourselves as majority members of Parliament from checking on the government and taking that responsibility to the members of the minority party?
The fact that I'm saying, okay, that's not me saying, this is how it works.
Okay.
It works that in every parliament, there's a majority and there's a minority. And usually the majority is what forms the government, whether it's a presidential system or a parliamentary system. And the opposition, the reason why they are recognized in the Constitution is because it is recognized in any democracy that the opposition has a very important role to play in the governing of any country because they are the only ones who can keep the government in check, because we know that sometimes those members who come from the ruling party may not necessarily do so.
Okay.
So it is a counter check that exists in democracies across the world.
I think the question here was very basic, you know, even without going into Parliament. The question here is, we have two gentlemen in this country. We have Honorable Raila Odinga and we have the Deputy President, and they seem to be having a go at each other all the time, and that is what the question was. I would like to say that the real issue here is that Honorable Raila will always question, like Honorable Gladys has said. He will always question and is rightfully questioning. It's in his right to question as the opposition leader. He'll always question things that he thinks are going wrong.
Okay.
On the other hand, Mheshimiwa Ruto or the Deputy President has a problem with that, and he gets personal. I think the only way that he could answer to what Raila questions is by answering or acting. Or because what Raila's role is to always point out to the government where he thinks the government is going wrong. And that is what the government should take and correct if there's any correction to be done, as opposed to getting personal.
Okay.
What we saw on that clip was a Deputy President ranting and going real personal. And that is not what will help this country.
All right, thank you so much, ladies. And on SMS line 2242, Deputy President should say what he is doing for Kenyans than just going around talking about Raila. Let him work for Kenyans and tell us what he is doing. Someone else is saying that why is Raila seeming comfortable with the president, but targeting the DP at every opportunity when he knows who is in charge. I think that's our time, and that's where we conclude this discussion on News Review. Thank you so much, Gladys Boshole from Uasin Gishu, as well as Rosa Buyu from Kisumu County. Asante sana for coming.
Yes.
Up next, we'll be talking to the chairperson of the Salaries and Remuneration...
SRC, Remuneration and Commission.
Remuneration. Join our club.
I just went to your county. That is Lynn Mengich.
Rosa now.
She'll be coming to talk about taming the wage bill. Of course, part of it is what has been happening with the financing, the cost of maintaining these leaders here, state officers at different levels, and of course the public servants will be having that conversation. You can have a say on 2242 or
also on text on 22422, which you've said, and on Twitter at Citizen TV Kenya at @Zinzi_K at Samgituku. This conversation has come at such a timely manner when we've officially, as of yesterday, begun the 2019-2020 financial year. So we'd love to hear from you.
all right, back in a moment.